What's up, guys? I'm SaltEMike, and this is your Star Citizen Week in Review. If this is your first week in review, it's basically where I take all the official Star Citizen news, pile it into one video, and insert my opinions in. If you guys do happen to enjoy this video, make sure you hit the like button, leave comments, and subscribe if you're not subscribed yet, because it does help with the YouTube algorithm. Also, I do live stream on Twitch every day but Monday to get this video out to you at twitch.tv/SaltEMike, starting at 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time. All right, let's jump in this video. We got a lot to get through. For patch notes updates, we have a 3.12 PTU patch. And starting right out with new features, we have the refinery decks. We've touched a lot on these in the past. So, you know, they've been proving pretty fun so far, but I have a lot more testing hours to put in before I have a true opinion on them. And I look forward to diving really headfirst into this on my live stream this week. Spacescaping, obviously these look really cool. Not much else to say on them at this point, but there's going to be a clip from Star Citizen Live this week that touches more on what spacescaping will bring in the future. Reputation version 1. This is the biggest update for Star Citizen possibly ever for me, in that this is one of really the first times that we've had missions that progress, regress, and reward you for more consistency in doing well. Basically, there's one overreaching group called the Bounty Hunters Guild that you'll be gaining rep with while simultaneously gaining rep with Bounty Hunters groups in your region in Crusader, Hurston, and Microtech. If you do well in one region, you may get better jobs in another because the Bounty Hunters Guild recognizes that you're a good hunter, I guess. You will eventually know your NPC based rep, your org rep with the Bounty Hunters Guild or future orgs in the future, only through the interactions with them. But in the plans in the future are to visualize this for the player and make it more simple. Weapon zeroing. This is another neat thing, I guess. Now, targets beyond 200 meters tend to teleport all over the place still. So this is really only useful against non-moving targets. So to me, this isn't useful at all. Tractor beam. Tractor beam's really fun. I am enjoying it. It can do all sorts of things that I didn't expect, like this clip here.
Oh, it's there. It's over there.
I got it!
Yeah.
Yo, that's sick! Ship entry ID. This one's actually a really great quality of life improvement for new players and even some vets that may not have flown certain ships. There's so many ships, and it's hard to remember the entries for all of them. Ships coming into 3.12 are the Talon and the Talon Shrike. They fixed the fuel issues on the Nomad and the Star Runner, and the Star Runner is no longer a tank in terms of its health pool. For weapons, we have the Gemini AO3 that we've been talking about for a few weeks now, and the FS9 LMG as well. Both are located at Grimhex if you want to purchase them and test them out. Moving on. Yesterday, there was a 3.12i PTU. This brought insurance timer changes as well as the cost to expedite insurance. For me, this was a pretty big miss. I just don't see why we need to make these changes at this stage of the game in the state that the game is. Ships don't recover from server crashes without having to claim them. Large ships have an insanely long time to get back. People are legit just going to log out of the game if they were flying in a group of friends with their Carrack and the game 30 case. That's where I have an issue with this. I think the overall idea and plan for the future is great, but the idea of implementing it now is just nuts. Down below, there will be a link of showing all of the ships and the effect that this change had on all of them at the time. Right now, I imagine this is going to be very much fluid, and these times and changes are going to be in constant flux through the PTU phase and likely in 0.1 patches for 3.12 live, things like that. In terms of bug fixes, the main one here is that pips are coming back, and it's really the only major bug fix. We still don't have a fix for the cockpit issue where it's opening and closing for everybody. I really hope we get that resolved soon. Moving on to roadmap updates. Roadmap Roundup was another pretty basic one. It just showed all the things that were moving into polishing. So planet improvements, spacescaping, refinery decks, Rep V1, ordnance replacement, space station refining, retractor beams, elevator panels, and the talons. For the Reddit roadmap, it just shows those changes since all of 3.12 is now in polishing. We're really just waiting on that 3.13. I kind of like the suspense of this. I'm not going to lie. A lot of things that were exciting over the course of this year have been pushed, and we really, I would love to see what the first patch plan for next year is. Now on to video updates. We had an ISC and an SCL. So starting out with Inside Star Citizen, we have a Talon featurette. And the first thing was really what differentiates each Talon from the other. So basically there's the Talon and then there's the Talon Shrike. How are they different?
The Talon and Talon Shrike are a pair of fighters by Isperia. They're light fighters, so they prize agility over raw firepower and durability. The difference between the two is the Talon doesn't have great missiles, but has great guns. The Talon Shrike has great missiles, but not great guns. So you have your two choices there.
I had this wrong last week, so thank you for the comments, guys, and letting me know the differences between the two ships, and they touched on it here on this clip. I'm kind of into the Talon, not so much the Shrike. I like the alpha size 4 weapons of the Talon. I think that's pretty cool. Something unique about these ships is their ejection mechanic, and John Crew explains what we will have for these on their initial release.
For release, we knew we wouldn't have the full ejection pod mechanic, so we worked around this by adjusting the ejection seat parameters to support ejecting in any direction we wanted. So for the Talon at launch, it will have ejection capabilities more than other ships, so you will still be able to simulate that sort of last-ditch forward eject. I want to do one final strike with my FPS weapons or melee or board onto a ship via it. But you don't remain in the ejection pod. It comes with you for a point and then it carries on to get out of your way.
Pretty cool here. Just, something that you may not have known about the ship if you weren't part of its original sale. I think the paint jobs are really cool as well. They touched on this a little bit in the episode, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what kind of other colors end up with the iridescent shader, so that will be pretty neat. Then we had a sprint report, and they start out with muzzle flash. They felt that the muzzle flash wasn't, realistic enough, so they're doing a pass on those with the new guns. We also saw a meme, basically, was the Shroud of the Avatar crossbow. I don't think this thing was ever going to get released. It is a low IR, low EM stealth weapon. So I don't know. This whole thing is kind of weird. Looking forward to seeing the progress on it in the future. There was a Gladius component pass, adding all the components to the ship physically and accessible. Also accessible for NPCs to work on the ship in Squadron 42. The Redeemer, we're seeing its white box pass, so that's pretty cool. And probably the biggest thing from the episode was this, the SDF shield tech. So the test was a mock to show that there's a change in color as the shields go down. I didn't really think I cared about what the SDF tech looked like, but seeing this in action and the need for it to communicate to the player how much damage they're doing, I recognize how that's missing in the current game. So yeah, really cool. And take your time with this, guys. Let's make it great. I'm excited for it. Updating locations on moons and planets. These are the usual improvements that we see basically every patch, where they go to the kind of theme park locations on the moons and planets, as well as just general the landscapes of them. Then a crazy one was ocean buoyancy. This is nuts. They even mentioned submerged exploration. I know we were planning on getting swimming at some point, but the amount of moving parts in this game is just ridiculous. Touch blending, this pass doesn't look great. I'm not gonna lie, but they're working on getting it there. They know that the tall grass and the way it dropped and comes back is problematic. I just think it's gonna be cool to sneak up on people and things in the future using this these landscapes and things like that. But obviously, you need to have some movement as you walk over stuff. And then the standard homestead update that we're seeming to get on every sprint report. I'm glad they're showing these things, but I'm trying not to get excited about them because it just doesn't seem applicable that we'll ever have something like this anytime soon. I hope I'm wrong, but I'm staying very kind of calm about something like this. For SCL, it was all about 3.12. So Star Citizen Live, all about 3.12. This was released before 3.12 was out. And I really think they touched on a lot of things that maybe people didn't know that were coming into the patch. So I'm going to touch on things that you may not have known. So first up was, can we steal cargo from ships yet?
So the answer is yes and no. So if you blow up the ship first, it will then obviously spawn all the different boxes in space, and then you can steal them. So if you take someone out and all their cargo then gets ejected into space, you can then go outside in EVA with your tractor beam, collect all of those boxes, put them back into your ship, and then sell those boxes, on the black market. If you try and interact with them directly from the cargo grid, so say for example you just went and bought a load of commodities that appeared in your cargo, and then you went and tried to use the tractor beam, because the boxes there are not physicalized, they're not rigid entities essentially. So what it means is that the tractor beam doesn't really interact with them. So that's going to be undergoing a cargo refactor, so will be coming in a future update that you'll be able to manipulate them directly from the cargo grid. So that's why I was saying yes and no. So yes, if you blow them up first, but no, if you just basically, you just walk into somebody's and try to take them off.
That was kind of disappointing to hear, given the clips we saw on Inside Star Citizen last week. But looking forward to this in a future update, because this shouldn't just be for piracy. This could open up group play for transferring cargo to one another, things like that. The next one was, why did you increase the fuel tank on the Mercury Star Runner and not how fast it consumes fuel?
So it was to do with size comparison. So essentially when all the ships are made, they have to have a way to be able to balance between each of the categories. We've got a lot of ships. So, the ship team take a lot of these parameters and come up with kind of metrics for where things should sit. So when the fuel tank was designed around the Mercury Star Runner, it was given a certain value, but then throughout implementation and then as it developed, it became a bit stronger, and essentially it was getting stronger and stronger and stronger. And then it got to a point where it kind of outgrew its fuel tank from basically a power to size comparison. So this was all about bringing it back in line from a balance perspective that was representative across the board. So if it would have just been a number change, it would have not necessarily, it would have left this weird, outlier. So it was about kind of bringing it back into that realm. So it fits well within its power comparison.
Well, and it's also making sure that when we're tuning things, like those thrusters will take a certain amount of power, and if we turn that down, or adjust that, then we're adjusting across multiple thrusters, across multiple ships. So this is a different way for us to tune.
I think these answers were a little bit weird, but I think the idea was that it is kind of a power hog and fuel hog because it's so fast. So the tank was to just get it in line with the current game and the experience, and I'm sure it'll get a pass in the future to line up with the way they want it to act. The next one was, what is the future of reputation-based missions in Star Citizen? And the answer was really cool.
So reputation is something that will be critical in terms of allowing the progression of things like that is not just locked to monetary progression, because monetary progression is something that is so tied into ships and how ships can be bought, and that's kind of sets that level of scale. So when you're looking at the FPS side of things, or the item side of things, or character level side of things, that scale is not applicable. So we need to come up with ways where it's like, hey, this super awesome weapon, or this super awesome piece of armor, or this super awesome item, or XYZ, we can then go, hey, you need to have this amount of reputation to do this mission to unlock this particular item. So it allows us to offer this deep and rich progression on the character side that matches the deep and rich progression that we have on the ship side with the monetary aspect.
I mean, this right here is why I'm so excited for Reputation and why I'm so positive about 3.12 in general. It's not necessarily that 3.12 is going to be fun, but that 3.12 is really opening doors for future gameplay. I think this should be applied to ship components and purchases as well. I don't think we should just be able to earn money and buy everything. I think some really amazing things should be locked behind Reputation, and that's what makes video games fun. The next one was cool as well. People asked, is there anything else planned for the gas cloud tech?
Yes. Yeah. So basically gas mining, it being like a danger zone, Like right now, we're missing like distortion damage and electricity and other factors that would actually knock out your ship or even kill you as a player if you're floating around in there. We can do this right now, but we're not doing it for 312. Is basically create smaller clouds that we can find out in the middle of space and use them as really kind of like clouds versus like the stuff that we've created it's massive. It truly is massive. And then obviously the other thing is that this is where jump points will be in future as well. So not necessarily in the Lagrange points, but in gas clouds.
A lot of exciting future things there. Would love to see the Starfire have a purpose one day. The next one is also really interesting, and I'm just going to leave you here with the clip.
Have we decided if there's going to be a wipe for 312 yet or not?
No, not yet.
It's nice when you don't have to wipe.
Well, it's something
call it
that
the
we
Houdini.
usually, yeah, it's something that we normally talk about once we go kind of like wave 2. Then we start having some of these discussions, but it hasn't been brought up yet.
I'm kind of hoping for one. I think it would be fun to start fresh with all the ships that you're able to earn now. We're an open PTU at this moment, so we're past wave 2. So I don't know, or I haven't seen any information about a possible wipe yet. But we'll see when 3.12 goes live if they decided to wipe or not. Then for quick hits from the episode that we didn't make clips for, you can't hide in gas clouds yet. It requires a refactor on how EM and IR and CS works, but they're working on it now. The Idris railgun should be functional. It will only target larger ships, as the smaller ships it wouldn't be able to track very well. Eventually, we will be able to combine tractor beams to gain the ability to move larger objects, but no timeline for when. The tractor beam will not impact push and pull mechanics, and you cannot board the Idris in 3.12. Moving on to other miscellaneous updates that we had this week. Back to the insurance rebalance. They had a post about it, and there was this post was explaining more about why they wanted to do the rebalance. I don't think the Spectrum community was very happy about it. Again, for me, the changes are fine, but not when the game is so rough. Again, that Google Doc on how your ships were affected by this change is in the description. They had a lore post about the GLOC bar subscriber promotions that we showed last week. Have more detail on them. So there's a green one for $10. $20 subscriber subs have the yellow, and the red and blue are for purchase. Ship of the month is the Grey Cat ROC, and the M50 is the pledge promo for like enhanced insurance. For the Perseus Q&A, I tend not to touch on these very much. And the reason why is all these answers are always in flux and always changing. Every ship that goes from concept to flyable ends up referencing some change that people don't like from the Q&A. I do like one question and answer, though, and that is, what are its weaknesses? That it cannot handle a swarm of fighters. I like that the larger turrets don't move very quickly. I think it just gives some insight into future gameplay, which is great. The last thing that we're going to touch on today is Tobii Eye Tracker and Star Citizen are collabing. This was legit an ad. 10% off until January 8th for this thing. It can control your head movements without to use a clunky headset. I think the Tobii Eye Tracker is really cool, but it was mentioned on Spectrum somewhere. I actually don't have that link for this video today, that it cannot do VoIP. So you cannot move your mouth and have it go through the game like a webcam currently works. But some streamers got this Tobii Eye Tracker. They're showing it off on their live streams. They're doing giveaways with it. I'm sure I'm missing a few people, but these are the ones that I'm aware of. Are the Dark Law, Aurelia Plays, and Moist Noodle, I think, are a few that have this promo, so feel free to check out their live streams. I'll put their links in the description below as well. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If it seemed like I was rushing through it, it's because I was. I don't have a lot of time to edit this video today because work calls. So guys, I will see you next time. Make sure you do all the good stuff, likes, comments, subscribe, check out my live stream if you haven't yet, and I will see you guys next week. Bye, everybody.